India's market news headquarters. Cutting-edge analysis. Influential insights. Market-moving intelligence. Broadcasting live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios in Mumbai.
Good morning. You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Bazaar Morning Call. We are coming to you live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios. It's a fresh new week. It's a big one. It's the budget week. It's a long week as well. 1st of February is the budget, which is, of course, a Saturday. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleague Nigel, and Surabhi should be with us in just a bit. Nigel, morning.
Well, morning, Prashant. I think it's going to be a very, very big week. Action is required on ground, and I believe that we'll hear something on that front. And don't second guess what Mr. Trump is going to do next. Colombia is his first target. Let's see how things pan out from here on.
Absolutely. And, is enough and more lined up, right? So actually what we'll do is typically we'd start with a little bit of the last close, etc. But I'll just dive straight into what is ahead. So the graphics will start to come up, and as I said, it's a big week with lots of action and activity really out there. So Fed decision is there. There's the budget, the union budget, which is on Saturday. And then there is mega cap US earnings as well. So just one by one for a quick bit. So Fed decision on Wednesday, the first up, and we'll react to it as always on Thursday morning. The Fed is seen holding interest rates. Will we hear and see something new from the Fed? We don't know. But it's possible that, we, in that press conference, Chair Powell says something. Remember, Trump has recently said that he'll speak to Powell at an appropriate time, etc. So, something to watch out for. But prima facie, expected to be like a status quo, nothing meeting. Mega caps in the US report earnings, and this is very important. About 40% of S&P's market cap is reporting earnings. I'm just highlighting the big tech names: Tesla, Microsoft, Meta, which report on Wednesday, and Apple, which reports on Thursday, has got the potential one way or the other to change the mood out there. Chinese local markets are shut. And again, because there's been so much focus on China, from the point of view that, Trump is not going all out with big tariffs on China, it's more negotiation, etc. But the local markets will be shut from the 28th, which is tomorrow, to the 3rd of February, which this is the Chinese New Year, the year of the snake. Well, many will argue it's the year of Trump. But anyway, this is another one. On the 1st of February, as has been advertised by President Trump, Mexico and Canada are at the risk of tariffs from the 1st, that is Saturday. And of course, there is the union budget on Saturday as well. We are trading. We are live in terms of market activity, market action. The question, of course, is will the government try and arrest a bit of a cyclical slowdown, at the same time maintaining macroeconomic stability, the fisc, etc. So these are a couple of points. Now, just to rewind and look at the trades on Friday, nothing very much. Nasdaq was down about 0.5%. Dollar index was down 0.5, 0.6%. But that we knew while we were trading in Asia on Friday, that the dollar was lower on the back of, those comments with regards to Trump and China, that he's willing to he's had a good discussion with President Xi in China, and etc., etc. So markets have taken it. By the way, the CNH, the Chinese currency, is up 0.5, 0.6% against the dollar. And of course, gold prices are up about 0.6% on Friday as well. Now, just the levels to circle around quickly. The Nifty had a down session, but we did not, and the reason we had that is because we could not break out and take out the highs of 23,426, which is nothing but the swing high that we've been talking and putting on the table for a while. So on the downside, the level is 22,976. That is a swing low that we are working with. We left off at about just near 23,100. So these are very near-term levels in that sense. Now, the daily Bollinger Band, if the lower level, the recent swing low breaks, is 22,820. That is the next number. Bank Nifty has not yet broken the swing low of 48,074. The Nifty actually once did that. The Nifty Bank has not. And I think that first comes into view, but very close by. Here, the high is 48,892. Which is the swing high, similarly like for the Nifty. And the 20-day moving average for the Nifty Bank comes in at about 49,530, which these will be the resistance levels on the way up. I think, the GIFT Nifty will give you a sense of how we're likely to start. But I think more than that, there are many stocks which we want to talk about. with, because of earnings, because of broker initiations, because of other things, news flow, etc., which should be in focus. 170 points lower again, going into a big week like this. I mean, I think that's deep, and there's a deep cut. And if we break below those lows of the swing low that we put out on the Nifty, and it looks like with this kind of an open, you'll be around there. I mean, I think then you'll have to consider even lower levels. But will it hold once we've defended those levels? Will we be able to do it once again as we start this Monday and this week? That's the question. Surbhi.
Prashant, hi, morning. I reckon this has something to do with all the kind of rhetoric and statements that are coming out from the US president. If you look at US futures, by the way, they're down rather sharply, and they're absolutely in sync with what the implied open is suggesting. US futures now are down anywhere between 0.5% to as much as 1.7% on the Nasdaq futures. So it's a sharp, declining start that the US market seems to be penciling in. Asia this morning, many markets are actually already shut. I'll come to the trades in just a bit. But let's talk about, so the Hong Kong market is open, but several are shut. Let's talk about these cues. What could be the market jittery about? Talk of more retaliatory action on tariffs and some hard talk. Let's pull up the quotes. What do we know in the last couple of hours? The US president has threatened retaliatory action on Colombia. Not threatened, he's saying he's going to do it. Why? Because Colombia didn't allow that plane to land with the deported immigrants coming in from the US, the defense plane that was coming in from the States. And now he's talking about 25% tariffs on Colombia. But that's not all. In general, the commentary in the last couple of hours has been, more of the same, but very, very hawkish, you can say. He was speaking to, BBC journalists on aboard Air Force One. What did he say on Greenland? Again, reiterating, saying, I think we are going to have it. He was talking about why Greenland needs to be an integral part of US territory. He again reiterated his stance on Canada. He said that in terms of trading partners, Canada is, more than 90% of their trade is with the US, whereas it's the reverse with the US, and it's an insignificant country from a trade standpoint, US-Canada. So he says, I don't want to spend hundreds of billions of dollars supporting country unless that country is a state. And if it's a state, the people of Canada would pay much lower tax. So the geopolitical rhetoric is still going very, very strong. Plus, he's following the rhetoric with actions, for instance, on Colombia this morning. And maybe the market is a little nervous about what lies ahead. Anyway, now that brings us to the Asian picture. Asian markets have been trading mixed. Like I said, many are closed. South Korea is closed. Australia is closed for regional holidays. Even Taiwan, I think, is closed this morning. The ones that are trading, Japan is down. The Hong Kong market is slightly higher. Lots of data out of China this morning. It's a little mixed. On the factory activity, there's actually contraction, surprising contraction. That was not what was expected. This is the official PMI data that came out this morning, and the number has slipped below 50. But on the other bit, the industrial profits, there is improvement, because the figure for December is showing 11% increase versus last couple of months where things were pretty challenging for China. So mixed data on China. Let's talk about what cues here tell us. Obviously, we've been in a very range-bound consolidation week. The low of the week is something I'll watch to begin with. Now, with this kind of, these kind of cues coming in the morning, let's see. Last week's low was 29,976, and we managed to recover a little bit from there. Let's see if the bulls can hold on to that. All hopes, obviously, are going to be on the budget. If there's some kind of a magic bullet that maybe the finance minister can fire. Not much positivity to report in terms of the flows picture, but the intensity of selling was a little less on Friday, you can say that. Selling of about 2,760 odd crores, domestic institutions buying about 2,400 odd crores. The total selling in January has now crossed 60,000 crores, 64,156 to be precise. The last big number was 94,000 crores of selling, which happened back in November. Anyway, lots of individual stock reactions and action to track today. And we'll go over these stocks as we go along. And it's a very mixed picture. For ICICI Bank, the margins are steady. The gross NPA level is steady. But if you want to be a nitpicker, you'll say that the slippages are increasing, and you'll watch for that. There's a 20% rise quarter on quarter in slippages. JSW Steel, of course, has been a pretty strong showing. We'll discuss more with Nigel in just a bit. IDFC First Bank, what I noted was that even there's a very sharp rise in slippages because of the MFI portfolio. Let's see how the market's going to read that in. Godrej Consumer, weak as expected. There's pressure on margins that's showing up year on year. NTPC is a mixed bag. The two good numbers are actually DLF, very strong showing in the third quarter. So maybe we'll see some green on these stocks. And Bank of India has seen an improvement in asset quality. Lots of individual stocks that we'll track. But the overarching, starting point this morning is fairly challenging, Nigel.
Well, that's right. And just going by the implied opening that you were talking about, 170, 180 points down, and just going by the price action, going by the way India has underperformed, I would lean to the side that we protect the 22,900 mark and we end off the lows to today. And I say that because we have two very, very important events in the next 10 days or so. One is the budget at the end of this week, that's on February 1st, and then you have the RBI meet and the policy decision out there. And all the indicators you're getting is calling for attention. And I'm sure the regulators are looking at this as well. And I'm expecting some kind of liquidity easing from the RBI and nothing negative from an economy, from a stock market perspective in budget 2025. So I'm expecting that today, if the GIFT Nifty is suggesting 180, 200 point downtick, we should end off the lows. Let's tell you about what the FIs did. Actually, they covered some shorts, but it didn't result in any big price action. 10,000 contracts were down. They added close on 7,000 contracts. And if you look at, pull up a chart, you'll see that from around 3.5 lakh contracts on the short side, the FI net short positions have come down to around 3.1 lakh contracts. So there have been actually some shorts that have covered out, but the price action really hasn't been visible. The FIs, well, they are on opposite ends of the spectrum, 3.1 lakh contracts, on the short side, while the clients are around 3 lakh contracts on the long side. That's been the case for the last few sessions as well. Options data comes up for you in the screen. 23,300 call was fairly active. 23,000 put as well was fairly active. So punching in these data points, punching in the recent highs and lows that we have seen, technically, this 22,950 mark, 22,900 becomes very, very important. In the past week, numerous times we went to 22,950 or thereabouts, and from there we saw a bit of a bounce. So you don't want the 22,900, 22,950 mark to get broken. On the upside, we've been trying to get to that 20,350 mark, but that's been proving as a bit of a resistance. So that's going to be the important mark. The bulls will want to get closer to these levels and, in fact, then try to cause a bit of a short covering bounce, which hasn't happened till now. On the Nifty Bank, well, we'll have to keep an eye out on that one. That 47,900 mark, that's a recent low, that becomes crucial. And we have been seeing a bit of a U-turn from around that 48,900 odd mark. So the GIFT Nifty suggesting a bit of a downtick. Give and take everything. You have the dollar index is a little bit softer. And also you have two important events lined up for the Indian markets. Add to that the weekly expiry that plays out. I think that we should try to protect these lower levels in trade. So let's see how it goes.
Okay, all right. Nigel got that. So plenty to watch as we get started. So let's bring you the equity call of the morning. And it's coming in from Nomura. Chetan Sheth says that tariff headlines cause a whipsaw for markets, and they think investors need to brace for this, at least for the first few weeks of the new U.S. administration. He says no immediate tariffs on China or the rest of the world has brought some relief for equity markets, but the question remains whether this can be long-lasting. We think markets will remain at the mercy of news headlines, and we expect this will likely remain the case, at least in the first few weeks of President Trump's presidency. And that's exactly what seems to be playing out, with a lot of those headlines on politics, on cross-border moves that he's making, which has been keeping markets lower in Asia. And of course, US futures, like we've been telling you, sharply lower this morning as well.
Okay, well, let's quickly run you through what's lined up here on the show over the next 2.5 hours or so. So at 8:35, we'll hear from the management of Intellect Design, Mr. Arun Jain. That's the first corporate interaction you'll hear. 9 o'clock, you'll have Rahul Malani of Mirae Asset, Sher Khan, to talk about ICICI Bank's third quarter earnings. 9:20 a.m., Manish Sonthalia of MK Investment Managers takes us through his thoughts on the market. 9:30, Torrent Pharma will be with us to talk about third quarter numbers. JSW Steel speaks to us after their third quarter. Interesting chat with V. Vaidyanathan of IDFC first after earnings which came through. 10 o'clock, Macrotech Developers on their earnings. And 10:15, it is Shriram Finance on earnings. So lots of earnings talk and outlook talk over the next 2.5 hours or so. Some flashes at the bottom of the screen, and this is, SEBI Chairperson Madhavi Puri Buch's term, which ends on the 28th of February. This is, of course, well known. The government has invited applications for the post of SEBI Chairman by the 17th of February. So, just some alerts at the bottom of the screen, which we'll want to note at this point in time. Anything more, we'll get you as we go along. I think